Welcome to the Confident Retirement Podcast. Is doing the most important things alone a good idea? How comfy are you with your choices when it comes to life's biggest decisions? What is real peace of mind with financial confidence, and how can you get it? Kris Flammang and Mark Picchi are the founders of LPF Advisors in Sarasota, Florida. On the show, they bring together the best and brightest minds to share with you how to have a more confident financial picture. They empower listeners with simple, common sense and financial wisdom. And now, here are your hosts from LPF Advisors.
I want to welcome everybody to the Confident Retirement Podcast. I'm your host, Kris Flammang, and today I have the great fortune and honor of interviewing Martin Vreman. He's not only a great business owner and helping people to have a better life, he's also a great husband, great dad, and an all-around good dude. So, Martin, I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Kris. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
Introduced like that.
Yes. Well, however I can help. Now, you have what I consider to be an interesting personal history with how you came to be in the United States. So why don't you take us through that and also how you found your current career?
All right. So from birth to...
Sure. Yeah, right. In 2 minutes.
Right. I saw the light. Yeah, I was born and raised in the Netherlands. My family and I lived there. I lived there for 10 years before my dad decided to immigrate to the States. He was the third of his siblings to move to the States. I have an aunt in Ohio, an uncle in California, and they have families there. But thankfully, my dad chose Florida. And so we moved to Bradenton, Florida, back in 82. And so I was a fifth grader, 10 years old, scared to death, didn't know the language. But, you know, coming from a Western culture to a Western culture, it wasn't too bad. So grew up there. Went to school at the local schools, enjoyed that. Kind of a side note, my first class, fifth grade, I was in with my to-be wife, Denise, which was interesting. She remembers the strange guy that didn't speak English. I didn't remember her. That goes on the record, I suppose. Yeah. Anyway, we started dating in high school, and Denise and I did, and went off to college to Palm Beach Atlantic University, which is in West Palm Beach across the state. And a couple of years into that, got married. I graduated in 94 with a week-old baby. Denise had given birth to Kimberly, our firstborn, a week before, right during finals. So finals week. The good thing was my professors allowed me to get off some of my finals, which was nice. So there were some benefits there. Yeah. So I graduated with a degree in computer information systems and math. A double major, which sounds big, but it's just a couple of extra classes and you get both. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with that. I didn't think I wanted to teach. I figured I didn't like English classes very much. The whole literature stuff didn't, maybe because of, my hindrance as being someone from Holland. But anyway, math was rather easy. So I ended up getting a job as a computer programmer for, can I give you names? I have Bell's Department Stores. Sure. In Bradenton. I was able to give one resume. One resume got the job, which was really great. It didn't hurt that the CIO was the husband of one of my teachers at school. So that kind of gave me a little in, but realized about 6 months into that job of fixing code for mini mainframes and things like that just wasn't a job for me either. I wasn't all that excited. So looking for something a little bit more people friendly, a little bit more social. And my father-in-law had been an Allstate agent for a number of years and encouraged me to look into insurance, become an insurance agent, which, is not something you go to school for. It's not something you think about. It's probably one of those default, like, oh, you can't do anything else, so why don't you try that? I was wrong, but, hindsight, I was wrong. But anyway, I went to school nighttime, for 6 months, got my general lines 220 license. And God was kind enough to introduce us to a franchise called Great Florida Insurance, which I still am a part of, going on 26 years. And there was a small agency in Clearwater that had just started, but the owner had multiple agencies and couldn't handle both. So she wanted to sell that office. So Denise and I ended up purchasing this small beginning agency in Clearwater back in 95. And I'd say the rest is history.
So when you reflect back and think back, over the last 26 some years, is there something that you know now that you wish you knew when you started out? if you could go back and talk to that younger person that was first starting out? So is there something that you know now that you wish you knew then?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, of course, hindsight is 2020. You know,
of course.
I mean, you go back and go, of course. I don't know if much would change if I had a chance to do it over again. I think, God is a big part of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the process of pushing me outside of my boundaries, because I'm very much a follower. So let me do my job. Don't bother me. I'll do a great job. But don't ask me to do something outside my comfort zone. And moving my young family with a year and a half old baby, even an hour north of where I used to live, into a new community, a new environment with a business I had no idea how to run, I didn't want to do it. I wasn't happy about it. God really pushed me into that. And so I don't know if there's a whole lot I would have changed. Probably little small bits and pieces. I didn't hire someone for a number of years because I kept looking at the bottom line and going, I can't afford to hire someone.
That's a big one.
Probably the biggest thing that had I went ahead and took the plunge, I think it would have increased my book of business, I think, faster. So that probably would have been one thing, and been more comfortable hiring someone. And
I saw that in my business. If you can leverage sooner, then you can have that exponential growth. But you have to take a little bit of a leap of faith.
Or a big leap.
Yeah, or a big leap.
That's right.
So what would you consider to be like a simple way that you describe or explain to someone why they should look at having a comprehensive protection plan in place for their lives? Because, there's a lot of misconceptions about the industry. So what's a simple way that you kind of approach that or explain that?
Sure. As far as, I would say, from my perspective, from insurance. Correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, there's lots of pieces. Got me in the first one. We'll get that out of the way. That's right. Get that one first. The eternal life insurance. Once you get that out of the way, then the rest. So from my insurance perspective, I sell property and casualty. So auto, your homeowners, umbrella, business, that type of policies. I do not, my office does not sell life, health, and things like that. But they're all part of that, trying to avert some of the risk and the consequences of what that risk might entail. So I would say that, while insurance can be so frustrating for people because, you're paying a lot of money for a piece of paper. Having had 26 years in the business, I have seen plenty of cases when that piece of paper saved someone's rear end, whether it's an auto accident, whether it is a house fire, whether it is a dog bite, or any of those kinds of things from my perspective in property and casualty. So that peace of mind, and my personality as well, I would say I'm a guy that I would pay a little bit at a time to avoid a large payout down the line. So really, that's the big thing. It's peace of mind at the end of the day. Be able to sleep at night knowing that, hey, if something happens, I'm not going to be completely exposed.
And we might get into some specific examples of that later. I want to ask you about that. Okay. Are there parts? What would you identify right now as what you like best about your business currently? So what do you like best about it?
Okay, what I like best? Well, as a business owner, I really enjoy the autonomy I have. Yes, I report to my boss, who is God himself, but I have the flexibility in my business to do what I want to do. I can be as productive as I want to be. And frankly, I enjoy the social aspect, the helping part of it. Yeah. It sounds self-serving, but I really do enjoy helping clients. And I'd like to think that whether they are a large client or have something small, I'm going to treat them the same, because in the end, I want to make sure that they're well served. So I think I enjoy that service aspect of it.
And, a lot of people there's a lot of misconceptions about the insurance industry or insurance agents or people that do insurance. So what do you think is probably the biggest misconception about your line of work or the industry?
That's great. So I got to look up from the bottom of the barrel, right? And push the attorneys aside.
That's right.
Car salesman. Okay.
Right. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I know my place. I know. Yeah, I think the misconception, of course, is in some ways is not that far off, because like in every business, there are some that take advantage of the situation. Right. Unfortunately, we've seen it years back, even within the Great Florida franchise. They are a great franchise, but you get a bad apple occasionally, and one bad apple can ruin the bunch. But I think the key is, for us, not only do we want to make a living. I have a business to make a living, means to an end. But I like to put my head on my pillow at the end of the day, knowing I did well and I served someone well. And so I think really just knowing that as an insurance agent, we're not only an agent for the company, but we're also an insured. I have insurance, and I get frustrated when the rates go up, and I get frustrated when you get an exclusion, or they won't do this or we'll do that. But in the end, insurance companies really do take care of the client. according to the policy. So that's good.
So when you're looking at the lines of insurance that you generally write for people, what do you see as being people's biggest blind spots? So a blind spot would be they don't even know it's there, right? You're driving in a car, you don't see that car over there on the left when you're changing lanes. So what do you view as being the blind spot that no one really pays attention to or doesn't see when it comes to the protection stuff you do?
Sure. So, well, two things, if I'd say. One is outside of my scope of what I sell, which would be life insurance.
Right.
I think that, is in my mind, every, working parent, every head of household ought to have life insurance. As inexpensive as it is nowadays, during the child rearing days, it's easy to get 100,000, $500,000, whatever it is for relatively cheap. Yeah. And having known, and you as well, some friends who have passed away sooner than they thought they would, leaving a family behind. We've seen both sides of it, where the guy didn't have insurance and the guy did have life insurance, and it's a world of difference. Money does matter in that time of need. So I would say that would probably be a real big one. From my perspective, what I sell, I would probably say, what I come across often is people come in and go, give me just the basics. I just want to satisfy the letter of the law. And that's a pretty low totem
hurdle.
So really insuring to your assets, insuring to what you're trying to protect is probably the one thing people might be, if you would say, blinded to at times. Like when they sit down and look at a financial statement, they realize my insurance here and I've got this many assets. How come I'm not insuring to that? Yeah. So that's probably maybe the biggest one, I would say.
The gaps that they don't know.
Yeah, the gap in coverage, the gap in protection.
All right. So let's talk about maybe a client experience that was really, really satisfying to you, problems that they face, what they were trying to accomplish, and how you were able to improve their lives. If you could reflect back on something where you were really happy at the end that you helped them. It doesn't have to be that it involves large sums of money. Maybe it was a small client or maybe it was a large one, but a really satisfying client experience you had.
I would say, Chris, since my personality tends to gear towards service, so you're right, the larger sale doesn't necessarily have as much of a satisfactory experience as just serving the person well. There have been several occasions where clients have come saying, I've been dropped by my insurance carrier because of claims or because whatever it is. It would be like a claim. As insurance companies do, if they have a payout big claim, especially if it's let's say a house insurance and it's water damage because they're afraid what other pipes are going to burst. Okay, so they get off the risk. Well, that leaves the person pretty much stranded because no other insurance company wants to jump on that. Yeah. So as an independent agent, which is what we are here at Great Florida, we have lots of different companies we write for. And so having the ability to shop those companies and frankly, doing a little extra work to try to find the carrier that will write that is definitely a satisfying experience because I know I did my best to find that client the insurance they needed. I got an email this morning from an insured who has a condo who had 2 water claims this past year and she's being dropped. Exactly. So I look forward to being able to give her the information, but I do want to be realistic with her. Like here, expect this and that, and they need to get their ducks in a row. So I would say, Chris, typically that type of risk is probably, in my mind, the most fun because it's a challenge. Not everybody's going to necessarily want to tackle. And I'd like to know that I want to and do a good job.
Yes, solving that puzzle piece or that puzzle that you got to have the right piece for it. That's something that I find is, stimulating and challenging too with clients.
Yeah, for sure.
Helping them solve those complex problems. So let's shift gears a little bit. I'm curious if you can think back this far because we're getting to be old men, but what your maybe first memory or experience was just in general with money. So the first memory you had or experience with money, it could be, either positive or negative.
Sure. I mean, I guess I would say probably have one of each. I'll say the positive first was in high school, you had to get that job and actually going to work for Long John Silver's for like $4.25 an hour. Where's my 15-minute?
Right. $15
an hour. Yeah. I'm joking. I don't believe in that, by the way, as a small business owner. Yeah. Just get off that record. But anyway, the $4.25 per hour, coming home smelling like grease and collecting that measly paycheck because it was part-time during, high school summers. And then realizing I could go out and mow someone's yard for like $20 for an hour. Yeah. And, at that point, first my dad would have to drive and we'd have to lug the mower in the back of the Ford LTD and get out there. But knowing that, wow, I think I know which one I'd rather do. Yeah. I could work 1 hour, 2 hours and make as much as Long John Silver's in the whole shift and not come home stinking like a grease pit. So I think that was encouraging. And my parents have always been very good with their finances. My dad is an entrepreneur at heart and was until the day he died. I mean, he just always did that kind of thing and just was very generous. And we never lived above our means. And so I think we always had what we needed, but we didn't have too much, to get spoiled. And then on a negative side note, recognizing that I needed to learn more about what money meant. I mean, this is kind of my own conviction, but I remember going into a neighbor's house one day as a little kid and they weren't home. And I thought, I'm just going to walk in, seeing some money on the bedside table and helping myself to it. And not thinking when I took a $50 bill from this guy, and I just put it in my wallet and went home and I thought, and of course, hindsight, I realized how wrong that was. But in the moment, it was just that temptation and not really realizing that somebody had worked real hard for that. And for me just to throw that in my wallet, God was good enough to have my mom happen to check my wallet like a day or two later. Because I don't know, what am I going to do with $50?
Right.
And she was real cool. She's like, what's this money? Oh, okay. Yeah. And then my dad taking me through getting home saying, and really the punishment of the consequence of going back to them, knocking on their door, paying it plus then some, giving it back, explaining what I had done and buying flowers for the missus. Remember sitting on the stoop afterwards, my dad seeing me walking across the street and sitting on the sidewalk. And one of the few times I think, we prayed together, he talked, he said, see, you can't do this kind of thing. And the consequence really sunk in.
Yeah.
So those are my early memories of money, good and bad. But yeah, I've been trained well by my parents, and I really appreciate that.
Cool. All right. So if you were given the time and the opportunity, and there's no restrictions on this, what do you think is something that's worth splurging on? So if Martin's going to splurge, it could be an experience. It could be something that you would buy. In your opinion, if you're given the time and opportunity, what do you think is worth splurging on?
And my mind has changed on this over the years because as you grow in that and the ability to do something, making memories with your family, I think would be the big one. And I'm Dutch, so I still am frugal, and it may still hurt to say, to push the button that says purchase. Right. But yes, making memories with our kids, making memories with our family. We're a very close family, and I've been very blessed to have a wonderful wife and 5 kids, and so planning those types of outings, and they don't have to always be financially, but sometimes you have to bite the bullet. Yeah. We're a boating family, so we splurged on a boat. Totally, there's no other use than just for fun and family time. And so that's been my material splurge has been buying a boat. But memories, vacations, really fun stuff. Yeah,
stuff that matters. So that might tie into this question then is, what would you consider to be your biggest life accomplishment so far? It could be personally or professionally. It doesn't have to be, but what do you think, or what do you consider to be your biggest life accomplishment?
First of all, I would say, and this is not to be falsely humble, but knowing that God has done everything good comes from him, right? Anything good in my life comes from God. So I recognize that, I am not able in my own strength to do anything worth anything, frankly. But having said that, I would say our biggest accomplishment is to be able to look back and see that my kids are walking with the Lord. I would say probably that and building my marriage, making an effort to build my marriage. So I would say the personal aspects definitely exceeds by an exponential form my business, only because I think that's the relationships matter. So so the relationships with my kids and my wife, like I said, by God's grace, but I think that would be our biggest accomplishment. And then follow closely, probably, I'll follow behind would be having a business of my own. And, like I told you earlier, my personality is definitely not a leader. I'm not that A-type, push it. So I have lots of struggles, but to be able to go, it's been 26 years in the business. I've got my own agency. It's running. It's successful by all means. Yeah, that's pretty exciting. It's pretty neat.
So the business is kind of the conduit that drives those other things that are much more important that you are able to accomplish. And I think that's kind of, with what we do with clients is the money decisions, the financial planning, that's just a conduit to get to those really important things based on their values and what's most important to them. in their lives. And that's what we're actually after. It's not making these decisions, which need to be done, but that's the most important thing.
The whole saying, you work to live, you don't live to work.
Yeah.
My father-in-law said that. Don't forget, you work to live.
Right.
You don't live to work. And I don't consider myself a workaholic. I put plenty hours in, but I one of my favorite part of my day, locking the door and going home.
Leaving, right. So if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what do you think you'd be doing instead? I don't mean like a leisure activity. I'm like, if you still wanted to work or had to work, right. Or wanted to, what do you think you'd be doing instead of what you're doing now? Did you have something growing up you always wanted to try and never did?
No, I was a pretty eseagoing guy. So I wasn't like, I want to be a firefighter. I want to go fly jets. Again, I was a little bit intimidated by those things. And so, I mentioned earlier, I probably wouldn't have been a teacher, and yet I could probably see myself in that role. People that God's put in my life, teachers that have been very helpful, some not, but a lot of them have. I think I could probably see myself in a role like that.
Is there a unique or interesting fact about you that very few people know? And I didn't ask your wife. I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just curious.
Well, I guess the one fact few people know will have to stay that way because few people know. I think the fact that I've gone through the immigration process, something that because I don't look different. I'm Caucasian. Yeah. My language, after a few years, there was really no accent. You talk to my mom at this point, then you would pick up on something like that. Yeah. So I think having the experience of having been an immigrant, especially in light of our culture today with the illegal immigration, with just immigration in general, finding myself going, wait a minute, I went through that as a kid, albeit in a friendly, comfortable manner. We flew over and our contents came in a shipping container, 6 months later. I didn't have the same, harrowing struggles some folks have had. Yes. So I think that's probably the one thing few people know, and then I speak Dutch. So the few older clients in my agency that are in the mobile home parks here that speak Dutch, I love surprising them, just by going right into it, and they're like, wait a minute.
They're not expecting that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't get to use it very often. I mean, it's not like Dutch. Right. Or a second language.
Yeah. So when it comes to your industry, how do you stay on? I mean, stuff changes all the time, right? Regulations change, the laws change, the carriers change what they're doing. So how do you stay on the cutting edge of your industry or what's going on with your line of work?
So good question. So because it's easy to get in the minutia things and kind of lose sight of the forest of the trees. So there's several avenues. Continuing education is something that the state requires to maintain your insurance license. You have to have so many hours of continuing education. Now, some of that, digs deeper into the nuts and bolts of just coverage in general. Yeah. But there are some that talk about the current climate of insurance. The other thing is our insurance companies typically will send out emails. Okay. They'll send out email blasts that share some of those details. There are, insurance agent associations that we can be part of that give us those details. And, frankly, sometimes it's a matter of having to look on the news and finding out something I didn't realize until everybody else did, that, oh, wow, look what's happening. But companies as a whole typically provide lots of good platforms to get engaged and become informed on what the latest, what the latest insurance, buzz is, if you will, or what changes are coming down the pipe.
And is there something or a person that you follow or something that you read on a regular basis? Now, it doesn't have to be professionally. I'm just curious if you are a reader or if you do watch things, who do you follow or is there anything you read on a regular basis?
So as far as just like current, current insurance, probably not. No, I don't really keep up with anything specific. There's a few publications that come out and I'll skim them through, but I frankly, I don't really look through that on a regular basis. You
probably read it when you need to. Right. So when it comes up, when it's pertinent, that's when you get up to speed on it, which is.
It really is. And they give, insurance companies will say, hey, by the way, in the next 60 to 80 days or 90 days, expect this,
Yeah.
And here's what you need to know to be prepared for that. Thankfully, I mean, changes in general are not super, extreme in the insurance industry. And now, granted, rates might be, or, there are certain responses to the market. If there's a fraudulent response by, let's say, roofers, fraudulent roof claims, well, then the insurance company has to respond to that in order to be able to remain profitable. So we see it coming because we're living it,
Right.
We're seeing those claims and we're seeing that. So, but as far as legislation, we kind of find out a little beforehand for the most part as needed.
That being said, what do you consider to be your biggest challenge in your business right now?
I would say one of the biggest challenges right now is the volatility of the market, primarily the homeowners market. So as in our agency, we do, we're primarily a personal lines agency. And we're growing in our commercial lines, but the personal lines agency part, the homeowners market is a great example, prime example right now. Because of claims, because of reinsurance costs, and that would be a global response because of tsunamis and fires in the West and things like that. The reinsurance market, which is the insurance that insurance companies buy to protect against catastrophic losses, has gone dramatically through the roof. So that is trickled down to the insured. And then, when 10 of your neighbors get a free roof because they bought into there's roof damage that wasn't there, the insurance company has to price for that. So explaining to clients that even though they didn't file a claim, but 10 of their neighbors did, unfortunately, it's an aggregator. So you're going to pay because you're in that zip code. So that's probably the hardest thing, is to explain to clients why rates do what they do and not make, that's the big, bad, mean insurance company.
Yeah, it's the delivery of the bad news, I guess.
Or trying to explain it in a way that you're not trying to hide something, you're not trying to make an excuse, you're just trying to say this is how it is. Yeah,
because that concept of spreading out the risk in insurance is foreign to people, right? They don't just know that naturally. That is kind of foreign to a lot of people, where the insurance company is making those decisions based on the number of claims that are going on and what's occurring.
Right. We live in a small little bubble. So they have to see the big picture, and they see we're Florida, we're coastal, we're this, there's, there hasn't been a hurricane that's directly hit us. I mean, Ada came through, and Irma a few years ago, but not really the way we were hit, at least our little area here, our little, treasure coast, I guess. But still, there's always that potential. It's a big potential. Yeah.
Okay, so we're coming pretty close to the end of our time. Now, is there a question that I should have asked you, or would you like to expand on anything that you said earlier?
I know. I haven't hit the 5-0 yet. I'm close. My wife's like, don't even get there. Don't say you're close to 50.
Right.
No, I mean, Kris, and you know me well enough. I think that, I've kind of alluded to it before. I would say we talk about satisfaction of helping the client.
Yeah.
I mean, last week, a client of mine that's been with me for over 10 years, his first name Dennis, older gentleman, came in. I saw him walk through the door. He kind of shuffled in, came to my door, and just began weeping. And he just said, she's gone. She's gone. And his wife had passed away just that past week. The great thing in this business, and partially being my own boss, is that I have no qualms, I have no restrictions to speak into these individuals and what their current need is. Yes, he may be making an insurance payment, but who gives a flip if right now he is just broken over his wife's passing? And so being able to give this man a hug, praying with him, talking with him, encouraging with him, calling him, following him. I mean, there's really no greater joy in that than being able to have the relationship with clients. And I hate to say it that way, coming from this podcast, as though, he's trying to sell himself, because I'm a salesman at heart. We're all kind of salesmen. But really, frankly, that was no financial transaction. That was just really being able to be, hands and feet, and being able to be there for this gentleman at that time. And that really does give a great satisfaction. And I think that's just a real sweet part of being your own business owner.
Yeah. Well, and you don't know. I mean, he could have no family around. He could be all alone. He didn't talk to anyone for a week, or, I get calls from clients telling me that I was the only person that sent them a birthday card. and you don't expect that. That's not what you're thinking. But then you realize, oh, this person is, alone in the world, or they don't have a lot of contact human wise. And with the virus, that's made things worse. So realizing that you do make that kind of an impact, it is really satisfying. If people want to learn more about you or your business, or they want to contact you, what's probably the best way to do that?
The website, Great Florida is a franchise, and so I can give you the website. That's for my agency specifically.
Okay, sure.
And that's www.palmetto.greatflorida, all spelled out, .com.
Okay.
So, palmetto.greatflorida.com.
Okay. All right. And then do you want to give a phone number or anything?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be glad to. So the local phone number is 941-721-9888.
Martin, I want to thank you a lot. It's been a real honor to interview you for the show. And we've been here with Martin Vreman from Great Florida Insurance in Palmetto. I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Confident Retirement Podcast, brought to you by LPF Advisors, where we are upping the confidence every day of people on the road to retirement and taking it to another level, one show at a time. Thanks, Martin.
Great. Thanks for having me, Kris.
You've been listening to the Confident Retirement Podcast with Kris and Mark from LPF Advisors. For more information on them and retiring confidently, please visit lpfadvisors.com. If your ears are pleased and your mind is now at ease, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.